Hello friends, welcome back to the next part of the lovely Linux videos. In this part, we are going to see how to install or how to experiment, how to feel a Linux operating system in your machine. I will let you know some ways in which you can explore the Linux operating system and you can decide whether to change to that particular operating system or not. Okay. So these are all the major four options available before us while choosing a Linux operating system. One is complete installation, in which you will wipe out your existing current operating system totally and migrate everything to a new operating system. In this case, your entire data got erased and a new operating system takes place there. This is called a complete installation. For example, if you want to migrate from your XP or any Windows operating system to a Linux flavor, your Windows operating system will be wiped off totally. Your Linux operating system occupies the space which your Windows used earlier. This is the first option. The next one is dual boot with a bootloader. What does it mean? So in Linux there is something called bootloader. It sits upon your master boot record and selects the operating system based on the user's choice while booting the computer system. So when you switch on the computer system, the bootloader will ask you for two options, whether to go with Linux booting or Windows booting. You can select accordingly and proceed with your choice. In your machine, both the operating systems, your existing Windows operating system will be there. It won't get affected, it won't be wiped off. Apart from that, you can install, you have that freedom of installing Linux as well. So both the operating systems can reside on your machine. This option is called dual boot with a bootloader. And the third one is live USB. All the Linux operating systems can be experimented through a live USB. You can download a Linux boot image, flash it into your thumb drive or a pen drive. Then using the pen drive, you can boot your machine without affecting your existing operating system. So what does your machine will do? It will boot the operating system from your pen drive. You have an experiment of that entire operating system from your pen drive only. It won't affect your hard drive or the files residing inside your hard drive or your current operating system. So all your experiment, your play, everything will be happening only in the live USB. If you are happy and satisfied with this, then you can go for installation. It may be a dual boot installation with a bootloader or a complete installation as per your choice. So that is the third option, is a live USB, which is for experimenting or get a just a glimpse or a peek of your operating system which you are planning to install. That is the third option. And the final option which I want to tell you here is virtualization. So consider you are having a Windows operating system installed in your machine. Without disturbing Windows, you can install some virtualization softwares in your machine. Virtualization is a concept of doing something within a limit or within a sandbox. It is a kind of emulation, but it functions in reality. What will happen is Windows is the operating system, is the parent or a host operating system you are already in. If you need to install a virtualization software in your operating system, and inside those virtualization softwares you can install your Linux operating system. What it will do, it will create a separate disk space and installs your Linux operating system, but it won't disturb anything in your host operating system, which may be a Windows or anything which you are using earlier from your past. So the current installation is going to happen in a restricted area, a restricted sandbox. A small emulator will be opened. Within that emulator, your new operating system will be installed. You can experiment and do whatever you wish. even you can use it as good as a real operating system, but it won't disturb any of your existing or past operating system, or any performance issues will happen there. So this is also another option. Okay, so comparing these four options, the complete installation is the last one I would recommend, because that is the option you need to choose when you are confident enough to completely wipe off your existing operating system and totally interested to migrate into your new Linux operating system. So that is the last resort you can choose while switching over to the operating systems. Before that, you may want to experiment varieties of Linux distributions. You can check their features, how good they are looking. Then based on your experiments, you can come to a conclusion whether this is my cup of tea, or I don't like this operating system. I want to check another Linux flavor. So you can feel free to experiment varieties of Linux flavors, and you can choose one and stick over to it. So for experimenting and other purpose, I would recommend the other three options are better, because the first option won't give you any room for experimenting any of the things. It is only available for complete wipe off for your past operating system. So what is good about the dual boot with bootloader? This is also a good option, but here also it will install the operating system permanently, but as a part of a separate partition in your hard disks. Consider in Windows you have C drive, D drive and E drive. So you want to allocate a separate drive for Linux, you can use E drive and you can install Linux in your E drive. So what it will do, it will take one partition from your Windows and installs Linux into it. So while booting your machine, the bootloader will prompt you for options whether to start Windows or Linux. So you can start any of the operating system and boot into it and continue your work. This is also an option we need to choose after experimenting varieties of flavors. Then we can choose between option 1 and 2. So these two are as good as installing an operating system permanently, not for experimenting, not for evaluating. So before installing typical operating system, we need to evaluate varieties of options, then only we need to choose one and stick over into it. So the first two options I won't recommend for evaluation stage. Once you evaluate varieties of Linux, you can experiment all the Linux flavors. You can have a look and feel and everything. If you are satisfied, then only you need to choose the options either 1 or 2, either a complete installation or you need to install along with your current existing operating system. Right. After ignoring these two options for experimenting or evaluating the existing Linux flavors, we have two options to do the same. So live USB is the simplest option to get started and evaluate your Linux flavor. But live USB is having some restrictions through which you cannot exploit, or you cannot experiment completely available set of features on a typical operating system. If you are having a live USB for any Ubuntu operating system or any Linux operating system, you cannot experience the whole features through a live USB. So the live USB is just to give you a sneak peek or a first look of the operating system, how it looks, but you cannot see the features extensively. You just have a glimpse of the operating system and you can decide whether to install it completely, or we can decide as a part of bootloader. So that is the small problem with going with live USB. If you are happy enough to have the very first glimpse, then live USB might be a good choice. But if you want to experiment the Linux flavors for some time and look and assess for its stability, then you want to decide, then live USB won't be a good choice. So the final choice which I would recommend, and which many of the people using Linux would recommend, is virtualization. So we need to install a virtualization software in our Windows operating system. Within that virtualization software, we will do a complete installation within the virtualization software sandbox, and we will be playing around this. So what we will get out of it is we will get a complete installation of a Linux operating system inside the secured area or inside the sandbox of the virtualization software. So within the area allotted to our operating system, we can do whatever we need. We can exploit all the features of the Linux operating system. We can experiment its look and feel. We can try whatnot. Everything we can do as the operating system have the possibilities. So what I recommend here is we need to have a virtualization mechanism. So we need to install a virtualization software in our Windows machine. Inside that virtualization software, we install various Linux flavors and we can choose the one which we like the most. Then we can go with a complete installation or a dual boot based installation. So virtualization is the way which I am going to use for further explanations over this set of tutorials for varieties of Linux flavors. So first we need to see how a virtualization software will be installed in a Windows operating system. So for installing a virtualization software, we have varieties of options. We have VMware, we have Virtualbox, and lot of other tools. But the most famous tools for virtualization are VMware and Virtualbox. So Virtualbox is a free software which is from Oracle. So now we are going to use the same Virtualbox for all other future demonstration purposes. So how to install a Virtualbox and how to install Linux operating systems inside the Virtualbox and start our experimentations, everything, that's what we are going to see. Right. So how to install Virtualbox? I'm going to start my browser now. This is my browser. Here I need to visit virtualbox.org. So this is the site from which you can download your VirtualBox. So the current version available is 6.1. I'm going to the download section. Here you can see the VirtualBox binaries. So for Windows hosts and OS X and Linux and other hosts as well. So first, since we are migrating from Windows operating system to Linux, so my Windows operating system should have a virtualization environment on which we are going to install Linux operating systems. So I need to download VirtualBox for Windows hosts. It's an exe file. Just if I click, it will start your download. So you just need to save and start downloading. So 103 MB is the size of the file. So once you download it, you need to install your VirtualBox. This is the first part of the VirtualBox installation. Once you are done with this, next thing what you need to do is you need to install your extension pack. So this extension pack is for making your virtual machine more live, more usable. For example, in your host machine, you have USB drives, CD drives, lot more physical devices, mouse, everything, right? Web cameras, everything may be attached to your physical devices. So your host operating system, Windows, might be using them extensively very well. But since we are installing our Linux inside a virtual environment, what we need to do, we need to make all these features available to the virtual operating system which we are going to install. For that, VirtualBox is providing one more thing called extension pack. So this extension pack is available for all supported platforms. You just need to download the VirtualBox package and save it in your machine. So this is the second step. So we need to download VirtualBox for Windows, install it, then simply download the VirtualBox extension pack and save it in your machine. So these two steps you need to finish first. Then once you installed VirtualBox in Windows, in the start menu you can find a VirtualBox option and you can launch it, or even in your desktop there will be an icon for VirtualBox using which you can launch the VirtualBox. Since in my machine I already installed VirtualBox, I'm just going to start it. So you just need to see this is how a VirtualBox will look like in the first go, right? So once you are done with VirtualBox installation, this is the first screen if you start your VirtualBox. Once you started, you need to install the extension pack which we downloaded earlier. So in order to install the extension pack, go to the file, preferences, extensions. Here I already installed an extension pack. In your machine there won't be any extension pack available earlier, so you need to click the add new packages button and select the downloaded extension pack. Then you can install the extension packet. It will be available here. So that's all about the initial preparatory efforts you need to do for a virtualization, right? So we are done with our virtualbox setup. Now we need to download Linux and we have to install Linux inside the VirtualBox and see how the Linux operating system works. So this is the thing which we are going to see in the future videos. So I am going to conclude the current video with the VirtualBox and VirtualBox extensions installed and ready for a Linux demonstration, ready for a Linux experience. So please check and please try the things whatever I have explained here, and if you are facing any glitches or any problems, please add them in the comment section. Until then, stay safe. Please explore a lot more things in the Linux space. Good day to you.